Now at 9, crews begin an archaeological survey in Joplin ahead of a project to rebuild 7th Street.
Yet another poll with bad news for President Biden, showing a majority of his party wants another candidate for 2024. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington. I'll have the latest on those numbers and what's dragging them down.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abby. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says the operator of a boat that drove into a crowd on Table Rock Lake was not intoxicated. Authorities say yesterday afternoon, a pontoon boat drove into a crowd, killing a 15-year-old girl from O'Fallon, Missouri, injuring 2 other people. Now, investigators originally suspected that the boat operator may have been intoxicated, but have now determined that was not the case. Authorities have not made any arrests. Meteorologist Nick Kelly joining us now. First look at the forecast. Still a scorcher out there, Nick.
Yeah, we just got to pick the lesser of 2 evils, Jordan. We got to deal with the hot and the humidity, or just deal with the hot. Personally, I would just deal with the hot. And that's exactly what we got today. In fact, we actually pushed a high of 100 degrees this afternoon, a little bit warmer than I was expecting after we started out. I don't know why that low is blank, but we did start out in the lower 70s this morning, but everyone's looking quiet to start the evening out. That might change for some of you overnight, though, because of a front starting to really work into our northern counties now. But behind the front, upper-level energy could try to bring some widely scattered thunderstorms our way by the time we get to about 2 a.m. and up until about sunrise. So that will push lows to 73. Once we get past any morning thunderstorm chances, drier air behind the front, Jordan, and a little cool down with highs near 89. But we'll see if numbers like these can hold for the rest of the week. Here in a bit.
Nick, thank you. A semi-truck hauling a load of trash temporarily shut down U.S. Highway 59 to 1 lane south of Goodman, Missouri after it turned on its side, as you can see right there. The crash happened just before 8 this morning. No one, thankfully, was injured. Crews worked to remove the trash into long dumpsters before setting the tractor-trailer upright. Missouri Department of Transportation starting its 7th Street improvement project in Joplin. Before that happens, though, another step must happen. KOM's Amber Jenkins explains.
The Department of Transportation is starting its project to improve 7th Street in the coming years. However, before they can start their project, a consultant team is going to make sure that the project does not disrupt any of the historical structures.
The project, but it's Archaeological Research Center of St. Louis is doing the study, and what they're looking for is older buildings with significant architecture, and so they'll be going through, and they've already done a deed search and have looked at the age of all the buildings and the use of all the buildings, and they're looking at that, original and over time.
The $27 million project will focus on improving the pavement and sidewalk conditions. The Department of Transportation said the pavement haven't been replaced since the 1940s.
Yeah, I'd say by a vast majority the project is supported, primarily for the pavement condition. Obviously, there's 18,000 vehicles per day on average that use that stretch of roadway. And so that was our number one concern, was the pavement condition.
The project is in the 4-mile stretch between Rangeline and Schefferdecker. It'll be completed in phases by mid-2024.
Downtown is the heart of Joplin. This project goes right through that. And 7th Street has been in pretty rough shape, and there's a lot of needs out there. And so we're excited to get this project going. I know the community, we had a public meeting recently, and we got a lot of response from the community about what they perceive the needs of the corridor are.
This project will improve travel and connectivity within Joplin. When you run into traffic congestion on 7th Street, just know it is temporarily. In Joplin, Amber Jenkins, KOAM News.
Businesses on 7th Street will still be accessible while the project is underway. Area low-income families could be getting some help soon on utility bills this summer. The Economic Security Corporation of the Southwest area is partnering with Community Action to help families pay for their utilities. LIHEAP coordinator Robin Walker says the program helps prevent the termination of utility services, also helps pay current balances.
And if they need help with their current bill, because a lot of our elderly families don't want to get a shut-off notice, they just need to call us and let us know. Or if they don't, if they just send in their bill, their current bill, and put on it, right at the top of it that they can't pay it, then we can help with that if they've already filled out an application and been approved.
Walker also says the program could help keep those lights on for families around Joplin. U.S. Court of Appeals issued a judgment on abortions based solely on a prenatal Down syndrome diagnosis. For years, the provision had been put on hold, delaying a rule to take effect, but now the ban can take effect. Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt celebrating the ruling, saying in part, quote, a prenatal Down syndrome diagnosis should not be a death sentence, and because of our efforts, it no longer is, end quote. Federal judge dismissed a lawsuit by Missouri Attorney General Schmidt that blamed China for the coronavirus pandemic. The judge says the federal rules prohibit a sovereign foreign entity from being sued in American courts. Schmidt's office says it would appeal the ruling. The complaint filed in April 2020 alleges that Chinese officials are, quote, responsible for the enormous death, suffering, and economic losses they inflicted on the world, including Missourians. China criticized the lawsuit, though, as, quote, very absurd, and said it has no factual or legal basis. Well, a critical week ahead for the U.S. economy. A new inflation report is expected to give economists another look at whether prices rose significantly last month. Plus, new poll numbers could be concerning to President Biden and his Democratic base. Fox's Lauren Blanchard has the latest now from D.C.
The White House and Capitol Hill are waiting for new inflation numbers set to be released Wednesday morning. It will give politicians and economists a better idea of how much high prices are hurting wallets.
The inflation problem will remain stubborn.
The May inflation numbers at 8.6% was at 40-year highs. June is not expected to be better.
I think it's going to be north of 8.6. It's going to be an ugly number.
Gas prices have let up a little since $5 highs last month. AAA now showing a roughly $4.67 price per gallon national average.
Wholesale gas prices are coming down, but until we do get a handle on inflation, I think it's natural for a family to be feeling that pinch.
That pinch hurting Democrats ahead of the midterm elections.
When we have the election in the fall, it's going to be very clear who the American people blame.
Only 13% of Americans say the country is on the right track, according to a New York Times Siena College poll. The poll also found a majority of Democrats, 64%, don't want President Biden on the ticket in 2024. He has only a 33% approval rating.
Listen to President Biden. He intends to run, and if he does, I intend to run with him.
The poll found a fifth of Americans say the economy is the most important issue facing the country right now, with inflation not far behind. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
KOM News at 9 and Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another four-state hero. John Carter served in the U.S. Army, native of Chautauqua, Kansas. Carter was stationed in Iraq. We are proud to thank and salute Sergeant First Class John Carter. He's tonight's four-state hero. Meteorologist Nick Kelly's next with a complete look at the forecast. A bit later, a local athlete committing to play Division I football.
While it was nice that we saw highs drop back into the upper 80s on Saturday, we had to go right back into the heat to wrap up the weekend the other day and to get the new work week started today. Case in point, we had temperatures pushing into the lower to almost mid-90s with highs around 93 yesterday in Joplin. We dropped back into the lower 70s this morning. Then we just catapulted before more humidity worked in back into the upper 90s to about 100 degrees this afternoon. A little bit warmer than I was expecting, but earlier this evening we were seeing high enough humidity where we had heat advisories for a portion of northeast Oklahoma. Those have thankfully expired about an hour ago, so we all are looking quiet on the Skywatch storm tracker, at least right now. However, I've been keeping an eye on what's been trying to sneak in from the north. You can see this dying band of cloud cover, at least at first impressions, but this is actually hinting at a front that's actually working deeper into the area as we speak, but it's what's coming in behind the front late tonight, going into tomorrow, that we're going to see any slight rain chances that will try to come our way. Here we are at 7th and Range Line. Still looks nice with the last of the setting sun trying to light the sky up, but it's still rather warm. In fact, quite warm. 89 and Joplin feels like 94, though, with the dew point sitting at 70. Everyone's pretty much in the mid 80s to about 90. Factor in the humidity, it feels like the mid 90s still in some spots, but fortunately we are going to see temperatures drop back into the 70s later on tonight as our cold front rolls on in. You can definitely see with those wind arrows again. starting to cross over US 54, the cold front itself. In fact, this is where the front is right now, pushing on through, but we stayed rather warm upstairs throughout the day, so we weren't worried about anything firing up along and ahead of the front. But in the upper levels, along with this passing jet stream, a little bit bundle of energy is going to actually allow for some widely scattered storms to get going, but not for a couple more hours at the very least. Here we are by 10 o'clock. Quiet skies, then the cloud cover begins to pick up as we get into the overnight hours. We go from 2:30 there to about 7 o'clock. Latest indications want a little more scattering of rain and thunderstorm chances to get the morning drive started. These should not be too potent. If anything, maybe no stronger than 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts, maybe the smallest of hail, but something that Chris Warner will be tracking as we get your Tuesday morning started. Then as we go through the rest of the day, those rain chances will amscray, and behind it, drier and a little bit of cooler air as well. 73 in the morning, 83 by noon, pushing afternoon highs to about 89 degrees. Quick look at Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, we're dry, but once we see those lows drop back into the mid to upper 60s, we got to head right back into the lower 90s for our Wednesday with highs around 93. We'll push 96 Thursday, 99 on Friday as that darn upper level ridge Jordan builds back in. But I'm watching another system by the weekend that could take us from 99 on Saturday to the mid 90s and maybe some more rain chances. So these fronts are trying their best to bring some rain chances our way, and we'll take those along the way, along with any chance to give us some breaks from the heat.
Definitely. Water tastes so much better during these temperatures, it seems.
Oh, yes, it does.
Yeah, it's important to drink water, too. Nick Kelly, see you in a little bit. Thank you so much. If you stepped outside today, you could definitely feel that summertime heat. Temperatures hovering around triple digits this upcoming week across the state of Kansas in particular. And it's going to impact those who work outside, specifically, like our farmers. Joe Baker talked about one farmer about how the high heat is impacting him and his crops.
The dry heat is no stranger to Kansas farmers, but the back-to-back days of high temperatures can cause issues for local crops.
I also raise alfalfa hay out here. We just finished the second cutting of that, and that needs rain to get to the third cutting. For the grain farmers, the wheat harvest came off and it was pretty good, but a lot of those have planted soybeans into those wheat stubble acres, and they are going to have some rain.
Local farmer Steve McLeod farms in Newton. Steve's alfalfa field shows his crops are in desperate need of some rain. This hot summer heat can tire farmers physically, but it can also impact farmers mentally.
First of all, it's just hot. Second, when you know your crops are struggling, when you know they're suffering, it's really, really hard to stand out here and watch your crops burn up. It's hard. It's mentally hard.
He says mental health doesn't get talked about enough in the farming community. And with temperatures hovering around triple digits for the next week and with the potential for no rain to fall, Steve says they're praying for some hope.
In Kansas, in this time of year, we're always desperate for rain.
And right now, the forecast for the state unfortunately doesn't call for much rain anytime soon.
All right, so with corn harvest season coming up soon, Steve also says the high temperatures and no moisture is not a good recipe for a good corn crop. Coming up, push for more gun control.
President Biden celebrates the passage of the new bipartisan gun law, but critics say more action needs to be taken. I'm Mallory Rivera in Washington with details on what they're calling for coming up.
Federal judge ruling today that the contempt of Congress trial for former President Trump's chief strategist Steve Bannon will not be delayed. Bannon's lawyer had claimed there might be potential jury bias because of the ongoing January 6th investigations. Bannon now says he is willing to testify before the January 6th committee. The committee's next public hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. President Biden touting the recent passage of the new bipartisan gun law, but many say the moment is far from a celebration in the wake of several recent shootings. They're calling on Congress to do more. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera is in D.C. with this story.
The tolls of a church bell, followed by a moment of silence, marked exactly 7 days since a gunman opened fire from a rooftop in Highland Park, Illinois. The mass shooting that killed 7 people at a 4th of July celebration has reignited another debate about gun control, even as President Biden celebrates the passage of the country's most significant gun legislation in 30 years.
The provision of this new legislation is going to save lives, and is proof that today's politics, we can come together.
But the bipartisan package is already facing criticism from gun control advocates who say it doesn't go far enough. Manuel Oliver, whose son died in the Parkland school shooting in 2018, interrupted the president's remarks on Monday, calling for more action.
Today's many things is proof that despite the naysayers, we can make meaningful progress on dealing with gun violence.
Oliver was escorted away. However, many others, like Illinois' governor, are making similar calls.
It is time. We will not stand for anything less than a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
Still, some say identifying mental health issues is one of the main problems.
I've always supported the right of law-abiding citizens to go through a process and to be able to bear arms, but to do everything we possibly can to take guns away from the mentally ill and criminals.
Families from Highland Park and Uvalde, Texas, are planning to hold a protest on Capitol Hill on Wednesday, calling on Congress to take more action and ban assault weapons. In Washington, Malda Rivera, Fox News.
Still ahead, Russia intensifying attacks.
Several residential areas in eastern Ukraine have been targeted in recent Russian attacks. I'm Trey Yingst in Jerusalem. I've got the details coming up.
Dozens of people killed in residential neighborhoods throughout eastern Ukraine in recent days. This as the Russian offensive ramps up throughout the nation. These attacks come as evacuations have also picked up, and the U.S. sends additional aids to Ukraine to help residents dealing with the ongoing humanitarian crisis. Fox News correspondent Trey Yingst has more.
Russian forces are intensifying attacks on the eastern front as both sides exchange fire on day 138 of the war in Ukraine. On Monday, Moscow pounded an apartment complex in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. At least 3 people were killed in the attack. Rescue workers are now in the process of sifting through the rubble to find any survivors. This attack comes just days after missile strikes slammed into a residential building in Ukraine's Donetsk region. Officials say at least 19 people were killed and dozens are feared dead beneath large chunks of concrete debris. Local residents are describing Moscow's recent rounds of attacks as, quote, acts of terrorism.
I didn't understand what had happened. There were 2 strikes, 2 or 3. I regained consciousness in the basement. People carried me to the basement. I gave myself first aid.
Ukrainian officials are now pleading with the West to increase support in the form of weapons. They expect attacks to ramp up despite claims from Russia that they will take an operational pause in the region.
President Biden is doing everything they can, and we are grateful for this support. It means a lot. Without your support, we would not be able to survive. But at the same time, we are asking for more heavy weaponry.
The State Department is responding, sending $368 million in humanitarian aid to some of Ukraine's hardest hit areas. Officials in Kyiv believe it will cost around $750 billion to rebuild after the war. In Jerusalem, Trey Yingst, Fox News.
If you are in absolute love with those things, Sunday Cones going to tell you about a chance to score some free for a year if you show that love permanently. Let's help the military, campers, and anyone really caught in a jam needing a diverse tool, celebrating a milestone. Victorinox, the company of the iconic Swiss Army knife, celebrating the 125th anniversary of its multi-purpose pocket knife. The knives are still made in Switzerland, as we see right there, some still with the famous cross and shield on it. Victorinox is going to release a reproduction of the original model made by the Carl Elsener Company in 1891. The versatile knife now has 400 models, and the company has branched into items like cutlery, watches, also travel gear. Getting some ink to show your love for an iconic ice cream cone might get you a sweet reward. National Ice Cream Day and National Tattoo Day, both on July 17th this year. Both of them on the same day, all right? To celebrate, ice cream brand a Drumstick giving away a year's supply of sundae cones for free to 5 lucky winners. All you have to do is get a Drumstick tattoo. Now, remember how I said it had to be permanent? I was wrong. Sorry. It can be temporary, even drawn with a Sharpie. What you need to do, though, is snap a photo of your Drumstick tattoo and share it on social media using the hashtag Drumstick Ink. Drumstick Ink. The company says it's going to be accepting participants until July 31st. Now, here's the deal. If you get a permanent tattoo and you don't win and you want to vent, go ahead and send all correspondence to nkelly@komnewsnow.com. Nope. if you do win, go ahead and send it to me, jobby at komnews.com, and we're going to discuss ways to spend that money. Or no, Sundays. You win Sundays. I was thinking money.
If we say hot again, send your complaints to J.Obby.
Yeah, I was thinking money, but the Sundays would still be good to share, you know? All right, 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming away. Going to see how Missouri Southern student athletes are now having a new way to make money.
As COVID cases rise across the country, the U.S. announces a deal to buy 3 million more doses of vaccine. I'm Jonathan Seri in Atlanta. I'll have details coming up.
Until last year, NCAA student athletes were not able to profit off of their name, image, likeness. But now they can, and Missouri Southern has found a way to help its students land NIL opportunities. KOM's Jalen Banks has more.
In June of 2021, the Supreme Court ruled against the NCAA's restriction on educator-related benefits, saying that it violated antitrust law. Now NCAA athletes of all levels can benefit on their name, image, and likeness, or NIL. All-MIAA linebacker Richard Jordan says this opens up opportunities.
It's really just a blessing for real, just having companies wanting me to be the face of their program. And, you know, coming from a background where I didn't even know where people have football and stuff like that, and it's truly a blessing for real to have this stuff like this.
Missouri Southern has partnered with Icon Source. The school is one of the first in Division II athletics to have an app that helps its student athletes obtain NIL deals.
They're great people. We think that they're going to give our student athletes the opportunity, and they're not just going to be on their own going through these processes. It's something that we felt was a need to give our student athletes the education and also give them the platform to be able to facilitate these. And the biggest thing is transparency, is making sure that everything is disclosed both through the NCAA and also through the state legislature.
As of today, the school has over 90 athletes across 9 sports using the app with active contracts ready. Lawson Jenkins, a junior on the basketball team, is one.
Actually got on there the other day and I had a contract on there, and so I haven't done anything with it yet, but I mean, it's just kind of cool how I can look on there and have a contract just on my phone to make some little extra money as a college kid goes a long way.
In Joplin, Jalen Banks, KOAM News.
Other universities using the app include Washington State University, Georgia Tech, and University of Central Florida. Pitt State giving some area kiddos the chance to gain some new skills. The university is hosting 2 week-long workshops, one focusing on robotics, one focusing on construction. How cool is that? The official says the workshop gives the kids a chance to see what the industry is all about.
Some of the stuff we do here, we scale it down a little bit for these kids, but we want them to get a taste of our industry. So that there's drawings, they're going to do some sketching, and they're going to do some estimating and some measuring. They'll do some academic stuff, but then they'll do some hands-on stuff.
Pitt State has been hosting the workshops now for 15 years. Now is your chance to save someone's life. The Ozarks Blood Center in Joplin's North Park Mall is in desperate need of a donation, so they hosted a blood drive today. Officials say 1 pint of blood can save up to 3 lives.
I personally donate because somebody I loved needed blood donations. So I feel like it's a way of giving back. It's a way to help save a life. Right now there's a lot of negativity out there in the world and in the news. So it's like you can save somebody's life in 45 minutes.
According to givingblood.org, 4.5 million Americans are going to need a blood transfusion each year. As many Americans travel and resume other pre-pandemic activities, COVID cases across the country are surging. That's according to doctors. Fox News correspondent Jonathan Seri has more from Atlanta on the new sub-variants which are causing this spike and why anyone could be at risk.
This is out there. And so particularly if you are at risk, you want to be careful.
COVID-19 cases continuing to increase across the country, fueled by new Omicron subvariants that are highly transmissible. BA4 and BA5 are able to work around a person's immunity, regardless of their vaccination status or previous infection. Hospitalizations are also on the rise, but health experts say tools like vaccines and antiviral medications are helping prevent severe illness in than many.
Depending on how strong that wall of immunity is in your community, depending on how well you deal with the vulnerabilities that people have, and depending on how well you're prepared to deal with that, I think we're going to see further waves of disease.
As infections surge in some areas, higher risk cities are encouraging people to mask up. Some are feeling the mask fatigue after more than 2 years, while others are indifferent.
What is the point? I'm not going to. I already got stick 3 times, 2 vaccinations and a booster. That's the recommendation.
I mean, I've never really minded wearing a mask, but I feel like if it makes people comfortable, it's fine.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services saying Monday that the U.S. government will receive 3.2 million doses of the Novavax vaccine following its authorization for emergency use by the FDA and its recommendation by the CDC. Novavax is also expected to seek authorization for its vaccine to be used as a booster after promising results in clinical trials. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
A bit later, Elon Musk says, bring it.
It's a war of words between Elon Musk and Twitter after the social media giant threatens to take the billionaire to court following the termination of his $44 billion deal. I'm Kelly O'Grady in Los Angeles with more on that straight ahead.
While it was nice that we dropped back into the upper 80s for this not this afternoon, I wish we had the 80s this afternoon, but Saturday was when we got that little bit of a break from the heat. Then we had to venture back into the lower 90s on Sunday. At least we dropped back into the lower 70s this morning before we pushed into the upper 90s and actually topping out around 100 degrees across at least Joplin Regional for much of the area for that matter as well. We don't have any lingering heat advisories. We did have some earlier for parts of northeast Oklahoma, but the humidity, the temperatures are going to continue to drop throughout the course of the night and through tomorrow morning because of a front on the way in. Can't really see any good impressions of that at first glimpse on the Skywatch Storm Tracker radar network, but if we pan just to the north and west a little ways, you could see this band of cloud cover that looked as though it was trying to fall apart, but those clouds are still there, and with some upper level energy coming in behind the front, that's when we're going to start to see at least slightly better chances for scattered storms during the overnight. But you can see how far that front has worked on through. In fact, it's about to push close to US 160, that corridor, certainly across Missouri and Kansas. For the time being, though, it still looks nice, no doubt about it from 7th and Range Line, but it is still too warm and a bit too humid as well. 89 in Joplin, feels like 94 with that dew point sitting at 70. Everybody is mainly in the mid 80s to about 90 degrees. Feels like the mid 90s still in some spots with those dew points up there. But those dew points that I have been picking up is going to work together with our passing cold front at the surface and a bit of upper level energy. Goodness, my tongue is not working tonight. But all of that is going to allow for some changes for some of you to work in during the overnight. We're starting the overnight quiet, but here's 2:30, give or take half an hour. That's when energy coming in behind the front will start to spark some widely scattered showers, even some thunderstorms. I don't think this will get too rowdy, but can't rule out some heavy rainfall at times for the lucky few of you, and maybe occasionally some minor wind gusts and very small hail. That should be just about it. Once those morning thunderstorm chances clear out, though, drier air behind the front and the north breeze will give us another temporary break in the heat. We'll go from 73 in the morning, 83 by noon, pushing highs near 89, so definitely looks better temperatures for tomorrow. But once we get past mid-60s to start the morning out on your Wednesday, right back into the lower 90s, then the upper levels look a bit interesting for the rest of the week. No doubt about it, this upper ridge really wants to build back in, certainly as we get the coming weekend underway with highs pushing into the upper 90s. But I want to watch this upper level low and another front by Saturday and Sunday. Not only could that bring some additional slight rain chances, that could also nudge temperatures back down at least a little bit so we don't flirt with 100 degrees all weekend long. But 89 tomorrow, let's go 93 Wednesday, 96 Thursday, upper 90s Friday and Saturday, Jordan, and a chance to drop back at least into the mid-90s by Sunday and Monday.
For the time being, though, in a way, not only uncomfortable out there, but just dangerous. You know,
yeah, like if you can, just limit time outside and just do whatever you can to keep cool.
Again, plenty of water. And Kelly, thank you so much. All right, coming up in sports, Carthage standout Luke Gall committing to a Division I football program. Plus, in Little League action, Webb City facing Joplin National in the district championship. Danny Terzer has the highlights next.
Carthage football standout Luke Gall made a big announcement this weekend. Gall has committed to Air Force Academy to continue his football career. Gall enters his senior season for the Carthage Tigers. Last year, he was named Missouri Class 5 Offensive Player of the Year. He also earned COC Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year recognition as a running back and linebacker. The list of accomplishments goes on and on. He rushed for 1,900 yards and finished the season with 29 touchdowns. Here he is on his goals at the college level.
Brad Roberts, who is their running back now, was all conference. So that would be great if I could be all conference, become all American. They've had great running backs, great rushing teams. So if I could just follow in their footsteps, that would be great. It's weight off your shoulders, like I was saying. Recruiting, there's a lot of stress that goes into it, and there was a lot of hard work that went into it, and I'm just glad it paid off. And there's a weight off my shoulders, and I can focus on my senior season now.
The Missouri Little League District 2 Tournament Championship is today, and 2 local teams have made it to the title game. Joplin National and Webb City square off this evening in the championship. First inning is a big one for Webb. Jackson Kent smacks it into the grass in right. 3 runners score off the double. Next inning, Andrew Baird hits it high and deep down the left field line. That's a triple. And then Kent shoots it back up the middle to bring Baird home. 6-0 Webb City. They keep pouring it on. Bryce Stevens gets it by the infield. A few more score. And Webb City rolls by Joplin National 15-0 to win the district tournament. And they're now headed to state. Kansas City hosts division opponent Detroit today for a doubleheader. The Royals are a few games back from the Tigers in the Central Division, aiming to make up some ground today. Brad Keller locked in on the mound. He gives up just 1 run in 7 innings with 8 strikeouts. Scoreless in the 4th, Vinny Pasquantino goes deep for a solo shot. It's his 2nd home run of the year, and Pasquantino doing it all today. In the 6th, he hits an RBI single that puts the Royals back on top. He goes 2 for 4 with 2 runs and 2 RBI. Then bases loaded for Kansas City. Cam Gallagher hits a grounder to short. Bad throw to first. Royals bring in another. Kansas City takes game 1 3-1. Game 2, Royals lead 5-3 in the 8th. Bobby Witt Jr. is 3 for 4 with 2 RBI. Ryan O'Hearn also has driven in 2. The Cardinals finish a 4-game set with the Phillies today. Philly won the first 2 games, and then the Cards came back to win Game 3 on Sunday. Series finale, St. Louis wins it 6-1. Corey Dickerson drives in 3 runs, including a 2-run homer. That's a look at sports. We're back after this.
It's like a soap opera, you know? Elon Musk and Twitter still going back and forth. After his latest move to back out of his $44 billion deal to purchase the social media giant, top Twitter officials now say they plan to take Musk to court in an effort to close Musk's initial offer. Fox Business Network's Kelly O'Grady has the latest.
The legal battle between Twitter and Elon Musk is just getting started. Board Chair Brett Taylor says the company plans on suing Musk after the billionaire bailed on his plans to purchase the company for $44 billion. Now, Twitter is now lawyering up, but some experts say it will be an uphill climb in court for the social media giant.
The Twitter board, which I think is going to go down in history as being one of the most incompetent corporate boards ever assembled. They couldn't run a lemonade stand. What I believe is going to happen is they are going to do this masquerade of saying that they're going to sue to get Elon Musk to follow through with his original offer. They are going to fail.
Musk claims Twitter was deceitful and failed to provide data on how many of their users were made up of fake accounts. Twitter responded saying they provided Musk with information that shows spam accounts make up less than 5% of its monetizable daily active users. It will now be up to the courts to determine if Musk will be forced to buy a company he doesn't want anymore.
Elon Musk, tremendously, intelligent, successful individual, but in this case, he simply, like Icarus, has flown a little bit too close to the sun with those wax wings. If you look back, so much of this bid, Neil, in my opinion, was emotional. It was egotistical. I think it was politically motivated.
Twitter shares falling since Elon Musk's announcement, wiping out multiple billions in company value. Now, Twitter is seeking Elon Musk pay the full $44 billion and complete the deal, much larger than the $1 billion breakup fee. In Los Angeles, Kelly O'Grady, Fox Business.
Can't they just love each other, Coming up, gonna check out the entertainment coming your way this week, right here on Fox 14. Yeah, the music. The man who composed the iconic James Bond theme has died. The theme, as heard at the beginning of the Bond movies, was written by Monty Norman, but arranged in its popular version by John Barry, who scored 11 Bond movies, but was wrongly identified as the composer of the theme music. Norman sued in 2001 to assert his authorship, winning a case against the Sunday Times newspaper over an article claiming Barry wrote the theme. Norman was also a singer in big bands and wrote and composed for stage musicals. He died today after a short illness. He was 94 years old. Top 8 taking the stage on So You Think You Can Dance, and MasterChef Back to Win is back with a new challenge. Here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin with a preview of what's coming up on Fox TV this week.
We're moving and grooving. $1 Million Music Monday brings encores of Don't Forget the Lyrics and contestants going for big money on Beat Shazam. You are the best of the best. Tuesday, take in a replay of Crime Scene Kitchen with dessert detectives recreating best guesses of what was made. Oh my God. I'm you! Then take off to Fantasy Island with the episode featuring a couple seeking the ultimate adventure.
It's a secret that's so big.
Wednesday, MasterChef Back to Win is all new. Chef Gordon Ramsay surprises the group with his love for vegan dishes, then challenges them to create one. That's followed by the top 8 dancers on an all-new So You Think You Can Dance. Last week's top 4 pick their partners and dance in random genres. Then all 8 perform in solo rounds.
Gotta go now.
Thursday starts with a replay of this week's MasterChef Back to Win.
Let's get our hip-hop on!
Then it's back-to-back comedy. Kelly and Shrub dance it out on an encore of Welcome to Flatch as they find ways to get money to buy a coveted pair of sneakers. And revisit the Blossom reunion on this past season's Call Me Kat premiere. Then Friday, Fox Sports takes over with more matchups in the ring on WWE Friday Night SmackDown. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
That's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Gonna leave you tonight with a video of elephants. Oh man, doesn't that look so good? Elephants at the Chester Zoo in England, cooling down from all this heat. Oh. Hey, be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.